All right, it's 6:30. We're going to go ahead and start and call this meeting to order. Mayor Pro Tem Smith, will you please lead us in an invocation?
Absolutely. Please join me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much that we get to live in this amazing community called Canyon Lake, Lord. Thank you that we had a safe and fun Halloween throughout our community. Thank you that we get the opportunity to govern together and be transparent to Canyon Lakers throughout. Thank you for all that you give us, Lord, and all that you provide us. Let us be reminded to do everything in honor of you, and in your name, amen.
Amen. Vice President Burke, will you lead us in the flag salute?
My pleasure. Everybody would please join me. Put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, can you please conduct the roll call?
Councilmember Dane?
Here.
Councilmember Green?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Here.
Councilmember Welty?
Here.
Mayor Castillo?
Here.
All present.
Thank you so much. Mr. City Attorney, is there anything to report out of closed session?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no items to report out of closed session today.
Okay. For the City Council agenda, Mr. City Manager, are there any changes?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Item 11, we'll need to continue that item to a date uncertain. This is pertaining to the auto aid agreement with the county. We are in active negotiations, making lots of progress. We're hopeful that it would be ready for tonight, so this was put on here as a placeholder, but we're not quite there. So we will need to bring this back either at the December 6th City Council meeting, or we may have a special meeting between now and then, just for this item. So recommendation that we continue the item to a date uncertain.
Okay, so I will need a motion and a second to approve the agenda with item 11 being pulled.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried to approve the agenda with item 11 pulled.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So, November Citizen of the Month. This is one of my favorite things each council meeting. And this month, we are recognizing a fairly new citizen to the city of Canyon Lake, Chief Latendress. Oh, you didn't know! It's you! You know, we wanted to make sure to recognize the incredibly hard work, time, and effort you are putting into establishing our fire department. Not only that, but I see you at city golf tournaments, I see you at Pizza with the Police, I see you participating in our community and adding to its richness. And we are just so grateful that you have chosen to make this your home. We are grateful that you are so vested in our community that you have moved here with your family. And so we want to honor you and recognize you as our November Citizen of the Month. And I know my colleagues also want to chime in here. Do you want to say something?
Yes. Absolutely. I just want to say you're a man of your word. From the very beginning, you said that this wasn't just a job for you. This was going to be a lifestyle, and this was going to be a decision that, you know, embodies all of you, and you've done just that. So I'm so proud of everything that you've done so far for our community, but just like the mayor said, getting involved and showing us that beautiful swing on the Friday Flyer was so good. But thank you for all that you do for our community and continuing to be involved. It means so much to us.
Anyone else want to add?
I will.
Okay, let me get out of your way.
It's been a pleasure to have you on board and welcome aboard. You've fulfilled the task and still fulfilling task. And I was saying earlier to our colleagues that the job you've done is immensely monumental from the beginning to where we are today. Still have a lot to do, but thank you. Thank you for your efforts, thank you for your dedication, and thank you for the fire service.
Want want to add something?
I would just like to, this has been quite a journey, and when you came on at first, we always wondered, what's the new guy going to do, right? The big question is, and I can tell you, you've kind of exceeded the expectations I had, the information you provide, the clarity, the detail, it's pretty amazing. And so I believe when we go live, that will continue on, and what I expected from a police station will probably exceed what I thought we were going to have, and I have full faith in you and what you're going to do.
Jen, did you want to add anything?
First of all, congratulations. And just in the short amount of time that I've been a part and have seen what you've done, I can say that you're here, you're always working hard. I see you walk in front of my office 1,000 times a day. And you're the first one here and the last one to leave, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Did you want to say anything? I know we surprised you.
Surprised would be, I think, putting it mildly, but thank you from the bottom of my heart. I have grown to love this community. My wife and I, we've grown to love this community. If this was going to be something we were going to commit it to, I think in my interview I said I've always lived in the community I worked for. Always wanted to work for Beverly Hills too, but that never happened. But you know, this is great. This is an amazing community. We're trying to be as a part of it as we can, both on and off duty. So again, my surprise, my thank you, and I'll continue to do my best that I can for you.
Picture?
1, 2, 3. Couple this way. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. So we don't want him to leave, right? Yeah. Okay.
I think right here is good.
This is so exciting, so exciting.
So this has been quite a process the city's been going through for the last couple of years. It was kind of culminated in November of last year with the city council voting to make the decision to start a fire department. And we had to move pretty quickly because the goal is to be up and running by January 1st of 2022. So in January, we went out and we started looking for someone to be the consultant with the title of interim fire chief to take the lead and stand up a fire department in less than a year. And we had really a very strong group of applicants. But when Chief Latendresse interviewed, I think everyone on the panel knew right away that this was the guy. This was our guy. Really stood out. But it was very nerve-wracking for me, and I know for the council and the rest of the staff, because this was such a monumental task ahead of us that we knew if we had found the right guy, this was going to work. If we hadn't found the right guy, this might not work out the way it needs to. I cannot even express the degree to which we know that we have found the right guy. For the past 9 months, Chief Latendresse has worked his tail off. His level of dedication, his experience, his knowledge, his approach and attitude have all been phenomenal. He's been a terrific fit within our organization, just fit in with the team right away. He's the first person to invite someone to lunch or bring food in or celebrate a birthday. But he has done what not a lot of people could do for us. In 9 months, we're now in a position that in less than 2 months from now, we're going to be launching our Camden Lake Fire Department. And it's going to be a sense of pride for this community. He's done just a tremendous job. And so tonight, we have the great honor of swearing in someone who had been our interim fire chief as the first fire chief for the Canyon Lake Fire Department. And I'd like to ask the city clerk to come up and perform the swearing-in ceremony. And Chief, I think your wife and son would like to come up for that as well.
If I could invite my wife and my son Cody to come on up.
Let me give you this microphone. One on this side.
All right, Chief, raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, Jeffrey Latendresse,
I, Jeffrey Latendresse,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic,
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California,
That I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion,
That I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
One more honor I get here as the city manager. I get to officially pin the badge on our fire chief. Here's what the badge looks like. It's a fire chief's badge. Can I ask you to hold this? Thank you. I'm going to try my best here, Chief. Get you.
Don't scream.
I know CPR.
Chief, welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. Yes. Can I put this down? Can I say something?
Please.
Where do I stand?
Wherever the community can see you on the video.
I just want to take this opportunity and thank the city council, the city staff, the city manager, city attorney, city clerk, and the city staff that's sitting back there behind me that has given their support, given their work, their effort, their sweat a lot of times as we move this department forward. There is a lot of work to do. It's amazing all the work that we have accomplished. And this isn't about me. This is about the team that the city has put together with a tremendous task and a lot to do in a short period of time. But we're going to get there. And we're going to be proud of what we have as a community. I'm proud to be a part of the community. And I'm extremely proud to be the first fire chief. So thank you.
Can we just adjourn the meeting now? Because that was amazing. Okay, I guess we have work to do. That's a good-looking uniform.
Right.
And a nice-looking patch and a nice-looking badge.
Yeah.
I'm pretty impressed. Okay. Thank you very much, Chief. Community reports, Vice President Darcy Burke. Welcome.
Thank you. That's a really tough act to follow.
I know.
So I'll lead in with sewer. The sewer rehab project will be starting next month. 280 homes will be impacted, mostly near San Joaquin West. All but 10 families have signed the agreements we need in order to access the property and get that taken care of. So you'll probably see the project from December through March. In the next 5 years, we're going to undertake $500 million of capital improvement projects. Some of those are mandated by the Regional Water Quality Control Board, and some of them are based on development and other things going on. But recently, we were able to secure $129 million in state revolving fund grant money at 0.09%, saving our ratepayers $50 million over the life of the loan, which is 30 years. That also makes us eligible to ask for it to be turned into a grant. So on a $190 million project, almost $130 million of it at a very, very low cost. The Bureau of Reclamation also granted us a $10 million grant for that same project. So I just want everybody to know that we are actively pursuing funding, grants, any type of opportunities that reduces the impact to our ratepayers while maintaining public health and safety and water reliability and sewer reliability. Sewers never break in the daytime. They wait till nighttime, and then it's usually really bad. So when we can be ahead of things like that, it's always better for everybody else. Last Thursday, we held our first public hearing regarding redistricting. Out of all 5 divisions, my division grew the most by 11%, while other divisions lost up to 3 to 5%. So Division 1 will be taking a haircut. I'm not exactly sure how or what. We have a demographer from BB&K that will be presenting some maps for us, but we want the public's participation. Obviously, the first priority is to keep cities whole. So my priority above all other communities I serve is to keep Canyon Lake as one. And then from there, we'll have to see what it comes up with. But I have to lose 3,500 in population just to get close to where all the other divisions are. So it'll be interesting over the next few months. We hope to have this finalized by January 27th, although the state deadline is April 17th. And my last little bit of information is it's fall, it's almost winter. We had rain. Please shut off your sprinklers. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Is there any potential that you could be cut from Canyon Lake?
Highly unlikely.
Okay.
I live on the farthest side, the east side of our service area, so I don't see that as a possibility.
Okay. I also wanted to say that we are grateful that you continue to attend the roundtable meetings with Canyon Lake and the POA, and I am grateful that you continue to do the coffee meetings in the mornings before these meetings. It's amazing that it's grown.
Yes.
And I think it's just, I want to continue to do it because I think it's a great thing. So I'm grateful for your time.
Well, as long as I'm in my seat, I'm happy to do it. Did you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
How many residents does Eastern, do you know, provide?
What their total population is for Eastern Municipal Water District? I do not.
No, for Canyon Lake.
Oh, it's 11,214, I think.
Eastern serves 11?
Oh, no, how many Eastern serves? I'm not aware.
Okay, because I know that they serve the east side.
Yes,
but-
there's a strip.
Yes. Okay, that's all I have.
That's for a future conversation.
Okay, thank you. I just thought I'd bring it up.
Anything else? No, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
President Commission from the Property Owners Association had indicated to me that he was unavailable tonight for attendance, and I don't see anyone here in his stead. We do have President Jeannie Odell, though, from the Chamber. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm going to read something so that I don't forget names. So the Canyon Lake Chamber of Commerce would like to thank our sponsors, our Board of Directors, the Event Planning Committee, the event volunteers, the City of Canyon Lake, and the Canyon Lake Property Owners Association for all of their assistance with making the 2021 Parade of Frights such a memorable event. Without our sponsors, we would not have been able to have the event this year. 1,000,001 thanks go to, you ready for the list? Canyon Hills Plumbing, Canyon Lake Solar, Caregiver Provider, Century 21 Full Realty Services, Champion Trophy, Coldwell Banker Associates Brokers Realty, they have a long name, CPR Training Centers, Sandy Gear Agency Farmers Insurance, Hot and Cold HVAC, JDI, Michelle Williams Tax and Associates, Oscar Tortola Ari Group, Patriotic Arms, Pepe's Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, Platinum Plumbing, Prestige Golf Cars, Queen of Fun Travel, and Real Deals. So we were very, very happy this year with the sponsors that really helped us out in the event. I also want to thank the hard work of the Event Planning Committee. The experience had by all of the participating businesses and the trick-or-treaters was enjoyable, with the joyous sound of laughter heard all around the town center for the first time in a year. Many thanks to Dolores Badillo, Debbie Gagnon, Sonia Kent, and Kelly Smith for all their hard work. And thanks to Donna Ritchie and the Canyon Lake Insider for taking all of the pictures. They will soon be viewable on the Chamber's website. And last but not least, a heartfelt thank you to all of the businesses participating on the treasure map. The Chamber appreciates your support. It was remarked during more than one conversation that this was the largest turnout ever for the annual Parade of Frights, and we look forward to making next year even bigger. So thank you very much, because the city really helped me out on a couple of things. So thanks to everybody for that. Just real quick, we will be doing a recruitment for some board members, so you'll be seeing that coming out in the next month or so. We have a couple of vacancies, and we look forward to partnering with the city on the State of the City event. So thank you very much. Any questions?
Any questions?
We're good.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
I heard it was awesome, and I saw the pictures.
Yeah, it was nice.
Great job. Okay, public safety update. Lieutenant Rails, welcome.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, and staff. I have for you the public safety report covering the stats for the month of October. Our deputies responded to or generated 367 calls for service, which was down 2 from September. We had 369. There were 9 Part 1 crimes reported as UCR data. 1 of those was an aggravated assault, 3 burglaries, and 5 thefts. Most of those thefts were from vehicles that were not locked. So just a reminder to lock your stuff in your vehicle so it doesn't get stolen. I think we were running at about 1 at that point, and I was looking good because that's usually one of our high ones, and then it all came out in one day. In addition to that, our deputies had 1 public intoxication arrest, wrote 2 traffic citations, made 3 DUI arrests, and investigated 4 traffic collisions. There were an overall 7 arrests made in the city of Canyon Lake, 2 for outstanding warrants, 2 for drugs, and then obviously the DUIs and the drunken public arrest. That's all I have on the public safety report, and I also added our response times in case you want to look at that. Nothing that really stands out. It's about average across the board.
Was the burglaries vehicle burglaries?
Yes.
I wanted to say thank you so much to yourself and staff for coming to our pizza event at PZA. That was well attended on a rainy day, and I got a lot of feedback from the community that they were happy to come and that they want to have one in the morning for coffee and one in the evening, maybe a happy hour time so that other people can attend. I found that your staff was very, very friendly and appreciated the conversation very much. Additionally, I did have other people mention to me that those who had contributed to the pizza, there's a long list of people behind that. So next time, I think that we have another list of people who want to pay for the pizza. So thank you so much for doing that.
No, it was a great event. I was able to bring out sergeants, investigators, deputies that actually work this community. So it's good to see those faces.
It was, it really was.
It was good for us, thank you.
Did you want to-
Yes, I have a question. Lieutenant Rouse, on your average response time for priority ones, and I don't know if this is skewed or what, but for June, I'm looking at 21, we've got a 3.97, and the rest of them are considerably higher. Is that just an aberrant number?
It can change from month to month. One call can skew that number
Okay.
heavily, like I brought one up last month that just should have been a changed call. 3 minutes, 97 seconds is a very fast response time
Yeah.
for priority 1. I mean, it'd be great if we can see that across the board every time.
Yeah.
But average is between 7 to 8 minutes.
Yeah,
for the
okay,
most part.
that one just stuck out.
Yeah, I noticed that also, and I didn't get a chance to look to see exactly what that was from, but if you could see the year prior, it was 10 minutes.
Yeah.
3 minutes, 97 seconds that month, that year, so it changes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question. Are you going to
Yes.
stick around for agenda item 8? We're going to talk about the Railroad Canyon a little bit. Would
I'll
that
be around.
okay?
I'll be around the entire meeting.
That would be, okay. I appreciate it, because to be honest, you're kind of one of our experts on this Railroad Canyon we'd like to see here.
Yep, I will be here.
Any other questions? Comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. Next, we have Chief Jeff Roberts. Welcome.
Good evening, Miss Mayor and Council. Thanks for having me. I'm standing in for Chief Law tonight. The stats for October in the city of Canyon Lake was a total of 71. 2 false alarms, 63 medical, 1 fire, 1 miscellaneous, 1 public service assistant, and 1 traffic collision. Out of those 71 calls, Station 94, Canyon Hill Station, responded into the city limits 29 times. The Menifee Station 5, which is Quail Valley, responded into the city 11 times. And Engine Station 60 had a total of 31 calls to equal 71 calls for the month of October. And that's all I have, if you guys have anything further.
Do you have stats on how many times Station 60 goes out of Canyon Lake?
We can run those, yes, we can.
Okay.
You mean yeah, I'd have to pull Elsinore's, Menifee's, and the county areas responses.
Okay, I'm just interested.
But if that's something you want in the future. Yeah, for sure. If that's something in the future, you could, just so we're aware of it, and you guys do want to, those reports are really easy to run.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Moving right along, we have Senior Code Enforcement Officer Ruby Manzano. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I'm going to be providing you with the activity report for the month of October. So straight into our BLM, we have seen a number of vehicles decrease. 4 citations were issued. However, we had an increase in illegal dumping, but we are getting, we're working out something right now to get a clean out there sometime this month. So that'll be happening this month. And then short-term rentals, 3 properties still have not complied. They haven't came into compliance, and as you can see in the report, they have been issued more than 3 citations already. And so we're still trying to work with that and monitor those, but again, those are a little bit complicated to bring into compliance. And then our short-term rentals, 9 new rental registration applications were submitted. For the month of October, 20 residential inspections were conducted, and we have a total right now of 100 inspections that still have not complied. We initially emailed all the property owners back in June 15 when we resumed inspections, but we've been having a difficult time getting them back and getting a response. Some completely just refuse. So we're going to attempt one more time to contact the tenant and then the property owner. And if that doesn't happen, they don't come into compliance, then we won't be moving forward with filing inspection warrants. And that's all I have.
Any questions of council?
Yeah, I just want to kind of have an open-ended conversation. And if this isn't appropriate, Mr. City Attorney, you can stop me. But I've had multiple conversations with code enforcement in regards to our Airbnb VRBO problems, and they've now had, as she had mentioned, several attempts to, work on the issue. One of them is being completely just doesn't care. I think the fees are up to $30,000, if I'm not mistaken. The other one's paying the fees but continuing to do continuing to advertise the property on these sites. So I think, at least what I'm gathering, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we kind of need to give direction on if we want to uphold what we originally indicated, which is, moving forward with the misdemeanor on this, or I think code enforcement kind of wants at least a little bit of direction from us, in a discussion to have on what we can and can't do, just because we did implement this policy, and unfortunately, it's not working.
Yes, thank you. So I believe the plan is going to be to bring the specific cases to the city council to seek authority to initiate litigation against them. So we'll be having a full briefing on each of the ones that have failed to comply, what the process that code enforcement has gone through, what your enforcement options are, what our anticipated budget for those are, and then we'll be asking for authority to proceed. And a couple other tricks up my sleeve that we can talk about in closed session.
Perfect. I just, I want my colleagues to hear from me as well that I'm still getting calls and complaints, and every time I do, I share them with code enforcement or our city manager, obviously. So it's still happening, and, I would probably say I get these complaints at least once or twice every week. So it's a problem, and, I want to show that we're being as transparent but also as effective as possible. So
I would agree, because this is an ordinance that was brought by the community
Yeah.
to the council for the purpose of having teeth. So,
Absolutely, Mayor. And I think that the enforcement sort of path we've been on was we had a significantly large number of these. Code enforcement has, started with warnings, education. Obviously, some people were running this as a business. We had one person come in and explain that that was their situation. Give them that opportunity to get in compliance with the city's municipal code. Then we started issuing the fines, and now, and then even more people stopped operating. And now we've reached the point where, okay, the soft hands approach, the education isn't working, the fines aren't working, and so now we're going to use the harsher tools in our toolkit. But to do that, we will need council approval, and we'll have to get that in closed session.
okay. Any other comments or questions?
Lastly, I just want to say thank you. Honestly, phenomenal job on everything that you guys are doing and what you have done, because like the city attorney had mentioned, we did have 21 cases and now we're down to 2 or 3. So awesome job.
Thank you.
Okay, Ruby, I have something for you. And it's just been an observation of the difficulty we have with our trash dumpsters behind some of our establishments.
Yes.
And some of them being overflowed, trash out, dumpsters out of the bins, the whole 9 yards. And I got a couple of complaints that the dumpsters aren't being dumped, and from business owners on a frequent basis, 3 times a week. Well, what we found was that the delivery trucks are blocking access to the dumpsters. Therefore, the trash company makes the U-turn and they're not picking up. And so either they alter the pickup time for trash being early AM, like dark, when there's no delivery, but the delivery truck, especially between PZA and that facility there, they park and the trash truck can't get in. So maybe something with the merchants might help that problem, because that is an ongoing problem with that set of dumpsters.
Yeah, I'll reach out to the merchant owners and see
Okay.
what's going on there, and even maybe to the restaurant owners. I know.
Well, they brought, the restaurant owners brought the complaint to me
Right. Oh, okay.
that they're paying for X amount of dumps per week. Obviously, the dumpsters are being overflown, and the trash bags, they're pulling the dumpsters out. The trash guys only take the dumpsters. They're not picking up trash on the floor, in the alley. Well, the compounding problem is, it's multiple days, the dumpster's in different places, and if they can't get access, that's the trash company, then the dumpsters go for another several days. So it just compounds.
Yeah, so I'll reach out to the merchant owners, and then I'll have an update.
Okay, thank you.
And I think part of the other issue, because I've been contacted as well, is the restaurant owners want to be able to throw trash away and not have to pile trash on the sides. We don't want a vermin issue or a dumpster or diver situation. So
Yes.
the people who are coming from Lake Elsinore and Menifee to use our dumpsters probably
Yeah.
need
We
citations.
get a lot of that. The problem with that is if we don't have names or addresses, it's hard to cite.
Some of those people leave their own mail.
Yeah, and that's how we cite. So we've literally gone through trash and taking out mail.
Gross.
just to be able to cite these individuals.
Well, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ruby.
That's
You're
going
welcome.
above and beyond, honestly. Okay, any other comments to Ruby? Okay. Public comment section. Will you please read the public comment statement?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter within the jurisdiction of the city, whether or not it appears on this agenda, is asked to complete a speaker request form available on the back counter. The completed form is to be submitted to the city clerk prior to an individual being heard by the City Council. The City Council has adopted a time limitation of 3 minutes per person. If you're commenting on the agenda item, your comments will be heard at the time that particular item is scheduled on the agenda. Please note that if you're addressing the City Council on items not on the agenda, the Brown Act does not allow discussion of such items. Therefore, the City Council may only do the following: refer the matter to staff, ask for additional information or request a report back, or give a very limited factual response. Members of the public may still submit their comment electronically by sending an email with their comment to publiccomment@canyonlakeca.gov. Comments submitted electronically will be provided to the City Council and included in the official record, but will not be read aloud during the meeting. I have one card, Jack Wamsley.
Welcome, Jack.
Good evening. One of the things I'd like to take just a second to really compliment all of you for picking an outstanding fire chief. This guy knows what he's doing. He's one of very few that could even accomplish what he's accomplished. And it's been my honor to talk with him several times, and I just think you made a hell of a choice. And I noticed his son's now working with him, and he better pay attention or Papa's going to get him. The reason I wanted to talk to you just a second, I think I brought it up before, is in reference to helmets for people that are running these electric bikes, or any bike as far as that goes. But the other day I happened to follow a couple of electric bikes. We were running 28 to 30 miles an hour, no helmet. I'm telling you, people, we're going to lose somebody, they're going to be killed. And they are relying on the state law, which is the stupid law, that you only need a helmet if you're younger than 18 years old. How dumb can you be? But you need a helmet if you're going to ride a motorcycle. But in between, nothing. You can ride with no helmet at all. But the one thing that you can do legally is you can add to the law. You people have the ability to add to that law and say, hey, when you're in Canyon Lake, you use a helmet. And I think we're going to save somebody if you do that. All of you know I've spent 50 years in the fire service, and I've seen a lot of things as Larry has, and I know that Jeff has. And it's just trying to save somebody from a real bad accident. So I would recommend don't make the decision yourself. Put it on the agenda to vote for the people. Let the people vote on it. And if you put it on and let the vote, then it takes the pressure off of you. And if they would vote and say, oh, forget about it, just state law, then you can say if somebody gets hurt, you can say, we gave you a chance. But if you don't give them a chance, then you know what's going to happen sooner or later. And I just hate to see that. Anyway, that's my speech for today.
Thank you.
Oh, one other thing I might mention, we're in the process of simplifying a program for construction. And I'm going to be working with Jeff Mann on the conversion of a manual that's about this thick. We've got it down to 10 pages. So I think we have a meeting the 10th and so on. And I hope we can get something going. And I think it'll be an asset to everybody that builds anything in Canyon Lake.
Thank you. I wanted to ask Chris if you could address the helmet issue, because after speaking to Mr. Walmsley, I had reached out to the city manager about the law, and you had mentioned to me that there was already a law in place related to certain speeds. Or one of you, can you address that?
Yeah, maybe I'll ask the city attorney. But we did have a conversation with the city attorney who indicated that there is a state law already, but let me ask him to address that.
Absolutely. So, Mayor, it's something that we are researching right now. I can tell you that the first concern that comes to mind is state preemption. Whenever it comes to things about regulating traffic, regulating traffic safety, that's usually the first issue we come up with, is that the state wants uniform traffic laws throughout the state. So someone who's, for example, driving through our city or riding a bike through our city doesn't, get hit with a citation because, for the, couple mile stretch of Railroad Canyon Road, you're supposed to be wearing a helmet or something like that. That doesn't mean no. It means we're researching it, and we will give the answer to the city council so that you can proceed forward in the way that you think is best. I expect that we will have a report before your December meeting.
Was there something about speeds or something over 25 miles an hour already requiring a helmet?
Yes. So there's different classes of electric bicycle. When I Okay, so I've seen the electric bicycles all over my neighborhood too. I think they're very cool, and I kind of want one. But, so I did the research on it.
You got your helmet?
Actually, the police department in my community was handing out helmets to youngsters, or tickets to youngsters for not wearing their helmets. There are different classes, and over a certain speed, and I believe it was 25 miles per hour, it is classified as an electric motorcycle and does require a helmet be worn. So I can give
Is
that.
that regardless of age?
Regardless of age. And so I can give that memorandum to the council so that you will know where the law stands and what our ability is to supplement it, perhaps. And then you can give direction on whether to prepare an ordinance or not.
So we could also do an infographic to the community that says if you're going over 25 miles an hour on your electric bike, you are subject to a helmet.
You may be cited by the sheriff's department for failing to wear a helmet, absolutely.
Okay.
I think one of the things has to do with the power of the unit. And if the power of the unit is less than whatever, I think when you research, you will see that in there someplace. And the electric bikes, some of them, boy, they can really travel. But some of them are very slow. So, but by the same token, he's on the road.
Okay.
And you only have to be going 5 miles an hour. You crack your head, you're gone.
All right, well, we will get a memorandum out to the community and keep this on our radar.
Thank you.
You got it. Consent calendar. Will you please read the consent calendar statement?
Yes, before we move on to the consent calendar, I did have one other public comment. It was an email comment from Rosette Duarte. I'm not going to read her comment, however, it will be included as part of the official record.
Okay, and I have received that comment and read it myself.
Okay, and consent calendar, all items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine matters, status reports, or documents covering previous city council action. The items listed on the consent calendar may be enacted in one motion. With the concurrence of the city council, a council member may request that an item be removed for further discussion. Staff recommends approval of all items.
Does any council member want to pull an item off the consent calendar? Hearing none, I need a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Moving on to the business items, number 7 is a resolution. Deputy Fire Marshal Ken King to present. Welcome.
Hey, good evening. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council, and staff. Excuse me. My name is Ken King, Deputy Fire Marshal with Riverside County Fire Department. What you have before you this evening is the adoption of a resolution required annually by the state declaring we have completed our inspections of the state-mandated occupancies in the city of Canyon Lake. We're reporting that we have completed all required identified inspections for fiscal year 2020 and 2021. I can answer any questions the council has. Otherwise, we recommend adoption of this resolution. Thank you.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Councilmember Green?
Yes. The records that you have for those state mandates, will they be available in January for our fire department to have, so we'll know previous violations and what has been completed, what's open? Are all of the occupancies that are state required, have they passed their final inspection?
Yes, they have. There's a whopping 6 state mandated inspections.
I know we have a lot.
That we completed for the city of Canyon Lake. All the files will be copied and handed over to the new fire department for you. So they'll have the historical documentation.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so any public comment on this item?
No public comments.
Okay, I would need a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2021-64.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Okay, we are moving on to item number 8, which is another resolution. Discussion and possible action on additional traffic enforcement measures and adoption of resolution 2021-65 related to Railroad Canyon Road.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. So over the past few months, we seem to be experiencing a fairly significant increase of serious incidents on Railroad Canyon Road, including fatalities. Back in September, the council took up a discussion on how to approach that, and decided at that time that we would ask our existing sheriff's deputy to spend some time, some additional time on Railroad Canyon Road patrolling. But since that time, it seems that the incidents have continued. In fact, we had a fatal crash just recently. I did want to bring to the council's attention, I put it on the screen, and I know the members of the council were given a copy of a news article that came out on Thursday of last week. The headline is, the U.S. sees an 18.4% rise in traffic fatalities in the first half of 2021, largest 6-month increase on record. Found this interesting because it would seem to indicate that what we're experiencing here is not a Canyon Lake phenomenon, but it's something that's happening across the country. It seems like as we're coming out of COVID, for some reason, people's driving habits have changed. People are driving faster, more incidents of driving under the influence, more incidents of people not wearing seatbelts. Not really sure why that would be, but it is something that is happening across the country. Nevertheless, I think the council is interested in looking at what we might do here in Canyon Lake to address the issue on Railroad Canyon Road. We've had extensive conversations with our traffic engineer, Craig Bradshaw, on the topic. Craig is here this evening in case there are questions for him. Craig has prepared a scope of work which is attached to this item for what is called a local road safety plan. By doing a local road safety plan, we would be looking at an analysis of the data on Railroad Canyon Road. We'd see, speeds that are taking place, traffic volume, crash incidents, all kinds of data to look at Railroad Canyon Road, and then start to develop countermeasures. It's a process that's very inclusive of the community. That includes community working groups to get input on ideas. And I know just in the last couple of weeks, ideas have been floated from members of the community, including, should we consider roundabouts? Can we do something about just traffic signal timing? Any number of things to slow traffic down. But the local road safety plan would evaluate all of this. The estimated cost of the plan is about $30,000. We can use gas tax funds for that, so it would not have to come out of the city's general fund. We are recommending, if you want to move forward with that, giving us budget authority up to $40,000, just to give a little wiggle room there. The other nice thing, though, is that once we have the local road safety plan adopted, the city becomes eligible to apply for Highway Safety Improvement Program grant funding, which could be fairly significant. That could be maybe as much as $500,000 in grant funding to actually implement the elements of the plan on Railroad Canyon Road. So in a second, I'll ask Craig to come up and talk about that a little bit more and what that process would be. But in the meantime, since that process will take a little bit of time, staff is recommending that the council have another discussion on some of the steps that were recommended by Lieutenant Rails back in September. One of those options might be to pay for extra sheriff's deputies patrolling Railroad Canyon Road. That would cost about $95.59 per hour, which is significantly less than our full-blown deputy rate. And or possibly purchasing and placing speed trailers along Railroad Canyon Road. That would cost somewhere around $9,000 per trailer. These would be similar to the ones that the POA has, except these would not be issuing tickets. With that, I'd like to ask Craig to come up and talk a little bit more about the local road safety plan and maybe a little bit about the HSIP grant funding.
Sure.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to lose my voice now. Excuse me. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Craig Bradshaw. First, I'd like to say I'm excited to be able to work in Canyon Lake. I've kind of worked at little cities around Canyon Lake, and I've had some friends that live in Canyon Lake, so I've heard a lot about this place. I was doing, when I was in Wildemar for a couple of years, I was doing encroachment permits for Wildemar for Canyon Lake, so I sort of know the area. But exciting to be here. This is this local road and safety program plan. It's really a very comprehensive study of accidents and any improvements that may be needed within the city. And primarily that's Railroad Canyon Road. They look at, they use a very systematic approach that's been developed by the National Highways Commission. They go through it and they look at the accident. Typically, we'll go back 10 years. We will look at anything they'll look at anything that's in newspapers, anything that the Sheriff's Department may have as far as records, the statewide, call it SWITR's accident data. Will there be a working group? And we just really don't want to miss any of the data or any of the issues. But they'll actually take the accidents and they will plot and lay out how the accidents occurred. And they'll give a diagram. And so you can kind of really analyze what's happening. They look extremely close at the intersections. They collect data so they understand exactly what the speed is on the streets, and look at all the characteristics. And they'll come out and actually do some videos and present some conceptual types of ideas. But what's interesting is they'll also compare it to state averages, and they'll do a cost-benefit analysis of the various things that you could do and how much those various items could reduce the incidence of accidents. So it's very comprehensive. And the big thing about this is it allows you to apply for the Highway Safety Improvement Program grant funds, which is really a big deal. And with those funds, you're dealing with pedestrians, bicyclists. I should tell you a short story. I applied for 3 roundabouts once in a city not to be named, and we put in a temporary roundabout to demonstrate how well it worked, and it worked really well. But they made the mistake of doing a scientific survey with the local college, and 2/3 of the people had really struggled with the issue. And 1/3 of the people loved it, 2/3 of the people weren't so sure about it. And so we were told to remove it by the city council. Well, 2 weeks later, we awarded $500,000 to install 3 roundabouts, and we returned the money. So anyway, be careful when it comes to safety data. And that's what it is with traffic analysis. You wouldn't really want to understand what the data is telling you, and base your decisions based on the data. And it's really very easy to get emotional and throw things out there and spend money that may not be best spent. And so that's the purpose of the plan. And with the HSIP grant, the Highway Safety Improvement Program, that occurs once every 2 years. It's a biannual grant. And it should be opening up in April, and it'll be due in June. And we probably will not know until fall of that year of 2022 who's going to receive it. It's a very competitive grant, but there's a lot of money that's possible. But what they do is they look at your analysis, and they look at the cost benefit, and they rank the projects based on the cost benefit ratios and where they can best spend their money for their safety improvements. And so it's a very exciting grant. There's probably about a 30% chance of getting funding, just in general.
How much is the grant?
The grants can go quite large. It really depends. In April, they will announce how much money is available. And it can, depending on how much money is coming from the federal government, it can greatly increase. There's usually 2 different analysis, 2 different pots. One's at the state level. They generally use federal funds. And then the WRCOG will have some projects they'll be able to award. And also with this local safety plan, you can use that data to apply for Active Transportation Program grant funding, ATP program, ATP grants. And that's an extremely lucrative area. That's primarily focused with complete streets, bicyclists, and pedestrian safety. As with a city that we were awarded $5.5 million the previous cycle. So it's a very big funding source. But anyway, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. Be glad to answer any questions.
Since I've been on council as of 2018 and been on the finance committee, we have hired traffic consultants and engineers from Tri-Lakes, specifically to assess the Big T and Skylink streets, which are those that lead into the Fairway Estates in Canyon Lake, which is the mobile homes. Based on that, and we received recommendations from the finance committee, we installed signage. We did the green bike lanes, which appear to only be in Canyon Lake, not in Lake Elsinore, and I haven't seen them in Menifee. So this one section of Railroad Canyon has the green bike lanes, but the other areas do not. We've had private property owners trim trees. We have had flashing golf cart community signs. We've had the solar signs with the speed flashing for people coming from Menifee. We've looked at adjusting the light timers both down Railroad Canyon, but also going through to the town center from Canyon Lake Drive. And then we had extensive conversations with the sheriff's deputies, most recently our captain and the lieutenant at a community meeting that we had with the citizens of Canyon Lake. What kind of insight can you give us? Because some of the information that I've received is that we are bound by Riverside County's transportation on what we can do locally, like have to run it by them. Can you give me some feedback on that? And then additionally, information that I've received is that the majority of these accidents that are occurring in Canyon Lake are people who are coming from the 215, cutting through to the 15, do not live in Canyon Lake, using it as a cut through, and then there are people who are speeding, obviously, and then people who are under the influence. You know, aside from spending money that is gas tax, which we are absolutely willing to spend, what can we do? Because what I've been told is that we're not receiving any of the OTS money for grant funding this year. Beyond spending this money for the $40,000 that's being recommended as part of this. Other than doing this traffic study, which I have no issues with, is there anything that we can be doing in the interim besides hiring additional personnel and putting speed trailers out?
Yeah, when we start to dig into the study, if there's some simple, low-hanging fruit types of things that need to be done, that they'll be done immediately.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of the accidents are speed-related, and speeding's a big issue. I'm sure, I was coming in today, and I was going about 45 miles an hour, and I just turned off of Getz, and somebody blew past me like I was standing still. So people kind of have a tendency to drive as fast as they feel like they can get away with it, unfortunately. There are some changes that are happening in the speeding law.
Right.
But this, I don't know if you've read about AB 43, but they will not go fully into effect until, I think it's June of 2024. But that gives you lots of different flexibility as far as setting speed limits within the city. And it's really very good news for cities.
We do have a unique issue in Canyon Lake where we need to have golf cart passage to the town center.
Yeah.
That's
We'll
non-negotiable for this
We'll look at
community.
that specifically in this
Okay.
study and see if we can come up with ways to address that.
You know, one of the issues I see, and you've experienced it, is each side of Canyon Lake, the traffic flow is faster. And most of our commuting traffic wants to get home, and if they time the signals, whether it's 60 or 70 or 80, they're going to try to make all the signals. And it puts us as kind of a 45 is almost like it doesn't exist. And how we slow them down, I don't know. I don't know if active enforcement from the standpoint, the trouble with that is when do we deploy certain resources to accomplish that? We don't even have a count number on how much our traffic flow has increased. Our traffic flow, if you're out during busy time of the day, which is most of the hours, those streets are plugged. I mean, plugged with lots of traffic moving both east and west. So, and it's a major thoroughfare. It is a major thoroughfare from Hemet to the 15 to the 215. I mean, there's only a couple other roads that have that same access. So we have a task that I think is very difficult in the fact that we do have accidents, and some of it's impairment, some of it's speed, some of it's recklessness. We have all of that happening on our roads daily. So other than putting speed bumps, which would be really unpopular, because now they would bring in the 4x trucks and try to jump them. I'm just kidding. I know that's not part of the traffic flow, but
Yeah.
it might work for a moment. narrowing down to one lane that would really tick everybody off on Lake Elsinore and in Menifee because they wouldn't be happy because now we got a bottleneck. So I really think from a concerted effort, this council is concerned about life safety. We're concerned about the accidents that are currently occurring, and not only just the accidents, but the threat to our citizens as they move about our community from the volume of traffic and the speed of traffic. So I'm not sure, without already what we've done, that enforcement measure other than law enforcement with traffic and ticketing would be the solution. So that's kind of how I feel. And I know Lieutenant Rouse gave us some ideas. We've got radar signs. The radar signs are a challenge to everyone now. They hit them and see probably how fast it'll go. Will it go up to 80? And we'll bing you out at 80 because they don't take any photos. We can't do that. So I think the radar signs are inefficient because once people know they're not ticketing, and I see that in the POA now, since they've changed that, the regard for the signs without the enforcement side of it, pretty soon the word's out, we don't have any effect. So we're really caught in a quandary. My focus is law enforcement presence, whether it's uniform, motorcycle, or whatever, and enforcement from the aspect of punitive. Because to write the message home, the Canyon Lake, as an example, the city of Menifee had a big problem on Getz Road. They did an active enforcement from traffic to shut it down. And they spent a week actively pursuing those who were violating, and they ran it a lot of time at night because they've got street racing going on. So I think it's a big problem. It's not a little problem. It's not a simple solution of putting more stop signs or more signals or changing the sequencing of the signals. So I am concerned, and I brought this up several times to the city managers, and unfortunately we've had loss of life. And we're trying to minimize that. So that's a big task for us.
Yeah, there will be an ad hoc committee, subcommittee, and we certainly would like somebody from city council and others, enforcement, whoever has a stake in this, be involved in those committees. And so it's kind of an education process. So also, as you see it coming together, and there's some things we may not be aware of. But this is really a very comprehensive examination. You really need to understand, what are our speeds, what is the accident rate, how does that compare to other cities of like demographics, and we start looking at that type of data, and when we have accident rates that are higher than the average, I mean, that gives us points as far as applying for this HSIP grant. But it gives us a lot more leverage, and we start looking at different factors, and it's fairly well known certain factors will decrease that accident rate a certain amount.
Sure.
And so it's really where you need to really approach it from a data standpoint to begin with, so that you're putting your money in the best place you can.
I call it commuter. It's the commuter mindset or the commuter culture, meaning that they want to get home. They've been stuck on the 91 or they've been stuck on the 15. And as soon as they hit an open road, they want to go as fast as they want. Without any enforcement of that, they pretty much got an open end. And that's kind of what we're seeing. Sure.
Madam Mayor, if I may. I just want to make, Councilman Green, you brought up some really good points. And I appreciate our mayor kind of giving a timeline on how much time, energy, and effort we've actually put on the problems that we've had on Railroad Canyon. This isn't something that has just gone off to the wayside. I believe that this council has been very transparent with the community in hearing their voices loud and clear. I look at it as a different approach. Yes, we're paying $30,000 for some research and development done on traffic studies on Railroad Canyon. And all of us here, I think, know that the problem is the increase in traffic, and we know that it's speed, and we know that people are flying through, and the data is going to show that, and this is a unique way of doing that. I look at it differently, though. I look at this as the opportunity for us to spend funds that are not out of our general fund to obtain information that will allow us to receive other funds, that will allow us to potentially take on different grants. And when I ran in 18, that was one of the biggest, components of what we needed to do in Canyon Lake, and do all we can to go after free money. And if we have to spend 30 grand to potentially go after $500,000, 250, even if it's a cost, break of getting 50 grand back, whatever, I think that's something that we should look at. But I also want to challenge this council that I believe that we could do both. I think that we can look at having a deputy, on Railroad Canyon representing Canyon Lake during peak hours to show that we are taking this very seriously. I know that the mayor and myself have been tagged multiple times on social media with this exact issue, and the community is asking us to do something. So I would challenge us that, we can do both on this. I think that this is a great opportunity for us to get the data, the information that we need, that we can maybe use down the road to further the opportunity of the projects. But I also think, like what Councilman Green had mentioned, we do need to do more when it comes to just a presence on Railroad Canyon, because I believe that Canyon Lake deserves that. It's what they're asking for. That's just my opinion on the matter. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, my comments are very disheartening to hear about the accident up on the street and then someone died. And, if you hear it once a decade or so, you kind of count that as part of life. It happens. But as often as we hear about the loss of life and the loss of property on Railroad Canyon, it's very disheartening for the whole community. That street's kind of known for just having a lot of accidents. And I appreciate using the funds to get money to basically do improvements to the road. But is there any grant funds for to help pay for the patrolling by the sheriff? I mean, can that come out of this money, or we don't know? Or does the sheriff know? Would this help the sheriff get funding for? I know there's times that you have DUI stops and things that are funded by different funds, but
That's through the Office of Traffic and Safety, if we're able to obtain those grants. Unfortunately, we did not receive any funds for Canyon Lake for this year, like the mayor had said, so that's something we can look at in the future.
But if we had data, would that help you?
It would help.
Can we put just a vacant car, a sheriff's car, on the road, parked on the side of Railroad Canyon?
Just high visibility, huh?
Yeah, or, just an empty, like a ghost car, can we do that?
Right now, probably not, because we're waiting on a lot of vehicles to be
Retired or
sent
something?
to our station, because everything's way behind, so we barely have enough to even fill our deputies going 10-8 right now, so that would be a problem, but we've done it in the past, so it's something I can look into.
It's interesting, the CHP does it on the 91 at the toll. They set a car there in the morning, turn its lights on, and there's not a soul in it. But it's slow, it's effective. People come around the corner and they see the light, they don't know if they've stopped someone, and he's close enough to the toll gate, it looks like he could come right back out, so he or she. So I know you watch the taillights come on as soon as they see that red light. They're braking.
That does work. I'll look into it, see what I can do. If it's a possibility, I'll make it happen, definitely.
Councilwoman Dean?
I have a few different comments and questions. Number one, on the survey, how long do we anticipate this to take?
Oh, gosh, in a larger city, we spend about 6 months. We really need to be able to expedite this and have it wrapped up by about April.
Okay. Where I can see that this is good to be able to analyze this and get more down the road, I think we really need to look at what's going to make an impact the fastest. And agree with doing both at the same time. Has there been any progress with having the deputy out more, like has been asked for, Lieutenant Rails? Any change?
I did put it out there for the deputies to start doing more traffic stops on Railroad Canyon as they have time. They have not had the time that I've thought for them to be able to do that. Most of the downtime is between about 10 o'clock at night, maybe 11 o'clock till 5, 6 in the morning. During that time, yes.
Okay.
But during the peak, when there's a lot of traffic, they're on calls, and they're on follow-ups and doing investigations. So with one deputy, it's not practical to be able to do that many stops
Okay.
to make a difference.
And then I'm not in the traffic business, so I don't know, but I tend to think that having the speed trailers there does make an impact, even, especially if we're talking about people that don't live in the community and people that are going from point A to point B. If they start slowing down because they're seeing them, that could be something that would help to begin with. I'll let you
I
answer
would
that
say it's
first.
somewhat of a reminder to those that normally obey the speed laws.
Okay.
And they just realize, oh, shoot, I'm going that fast. But people that don't care, they're just going to go right through it.
Just want to see how fast they
Like-
can go.
Yeah. Like the city
Okay.
manager said, it's there, but when people know they're not getting tickets, they're going to go as fast as they can.
Okay. And then my last question is there an opportunity, I don't know how this starts, but to have DUI checkpoints nearby, since that seems to be a big problem with the accidents?
We do have DUI checkpoints on Railroad Canyon on the Lake Elsinore side, since they did receive funds from OTS.
Okay.
But Canyon Lake did not, so in order to do one in Canyon Lake, it would have to be city-funded.
And I did ask the captain about that. He indicated to me that a rough estimate for 5 hours would be $18,000.
It's a lot.
How often is Lake Elsinore doing the,
They used to do it
Sobriety
quite
checkpoints.
often, but the money has been cut in over half. So I don't know how many we're going to do this year. I'm saying possibly maybe 7 to 8 in the whole entire city. So I'm not sure how many will be in Railroad Canyon, maybe 1,
wow,
2.
okay.
So, but Railroad Canyon's been an issue. I've been doing this 25 years. I've been in this area off and on for 25 years. We've had fatals there since then. Railroad Canyon's always been that main thoroughfare. It's tough, like the mayor said, it's that thoroughfare between the 15 and the 215, and everybody's driving it. I did a quick study on Flock to see how many vehicles were on the Flock system cameras, to see how many vehicles were coming through Canyon Lake, and it's roughly 120,000 a week that are coming through Canyon Lake. 10 plus on a weekday, and then on the weekend, you're seeing upwards of 25,000 vehicles.
You
So
bring up,
it's busy.
you brought up a really good question, though, just because how long does the study take? I think that's relevant. You had mentioned that in other cities. Can you give me an example of, you don't have to name the city, but how big the project is or how long?
This is actually a much smaller project. I would not think it'd take that long.
Yeah, because, it's exactly 1.6 miles
Right.
that we're actually, requesting the data on. And I don't want to be, that's a long time for such a small area
Right.
that we're trying to get the information
No,
on to make good.
I don't disagree.
Okay.
Yeah, the last city I did it in, I think we had probably like 100 segments. You probably have, I don't know, a handful of segments, less than 10 segments you'd really be looking at close.
Right. Okay.
I had a coffee meeting this morning, and one of the residents asked about K-rails or barriers to prevent cars from going into oncoming traffic. Is that part of your study?
Certainly. If there's head-ons and you wanted some sort of separation, whether it's raised median or K-rail or, there's different ways of handling that, but yeah, you want separation.
Okay.
So the last question I have, in doing, the research, on our 1.6 mile little area here, will you also have, a 1 through 5 scenario of like, hey, here's what we think you can do. This is where you think you can, now we know this information, you actually can apply for this. We believe that you're a perfect, equation for K-rails. We believe that you should do roundabouts. We think we should put ramps in the middle of the road. You'll come up with,
There'll be a whole laundry list, and there'll be price tags associated with those items. And this is what it'll reduce this accident rate this much, but there's a price tag associated with it.
Of course.
So there's a cost-benefit ratio. They'll have a whole laundry list of those types of items.
Thank you.
If I may. One more. And I know you've got to go through the study to get to this point, but do you also look at opportunities to work with the neighboring cities to make it, because it's obviously not just a Canyon Lake problem, because it's coming from the
Right.
15, from the 215. There's other cities involved there. So is there an opportunity
There's going to have to be something to
work
deal
with
deal
them?
with the continuity. I mean, it's, when we've done studies regarding truck routes, I mean, if you have a truck route in one city, and you can't all of a sudden say, I'm not going to have a truck route in my city. You run into a problem. And you run into problems because federal dollars and state gas tax dollars were used to build the road and so forth. And so, I mean, you've got to look at those issues. And so, yeah, perhaps if we're dealing with speed zoning, you really don't want a big drop in speed zoning. Typically, it's a 5-mile-an-hour increment. And so it may need to drop 5 miles below in a neighboring city. Now, that might be very difficult until this AB 43 kicks into place. But we do need to look at continuity.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council? So, in terms of action on this item, I know we have the recommendation for the resolution to go forward on the safety plan. And then there's also the issue related to the, in the meantime, suggestions. Are you asking for those to be two different action items for motions?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm asking, well, staff is recommending approval of the resolution, which would give budget authority for the local road safety plan.
Okay.
Separately, staff is looking for direction from the council on what other measures you might want to take, if you might want to, increase our patrol on Railroad Canyon Road, or purchase and place speed trailers, or anything else that might come out of the discussion. Depending on the cost and how much the council wants to spend, we may need to come back and do a budget adjustment to account for those.
Right.
But we could move forward in the meantime and just come after the fact and do a budget adjustment.
Okay. Are there any public comment cards?
We do have a public comment from Jack Wamsley.
Okay. And then I know that the Rosette Duarte comment card had been about traffic as well.
Not specific to this item, more so just a general comment. A lot of the comment also was addressed to the POA, so
Right.
we just took that as a general comment.
Okay. Welcome back.
With reference to the speed, I've heard a lot of people say, well, why can Elsinore, I'm going 55 or 50 miles an hour, and I get to Canyon Lake, I got to go 45, and then you go to Menifee, I can go back up to 55. Do the council understand why it's 45?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay. It's a vehicle code situation.
Yes.
Because we're using golf carts. When you use golf carts, 45 is the speed, and that's the reason we set it at 45 when we started the city.
Right.
And at least you people know about that. One of the things I really feel if we could have a motorcycle officer working, I don't know how much it costs, but you start writing some tickets, and you'd be surprised how slow the traffic will be in a hurry. And it may be worth our while to consider something like that. And anyway, I'm happy that you know why we're 45 miles an hour.
The citizens of Canyon Lake would not let us get away with anything less, right? Okay, so.
I got one question, Madam Mayor, about the idea of adding another deputy. Mr. City Manager, have we done, kind of a cost breakdown of what that would look like? I mean, I know that we all on the council receive the numbers for the traffic, and the peak is obviously, believe it or not, Friday and Saturday. Friday actually being more than Saturday. I think it was like 20,000 or 22,000, and then the other one was 20, and then Sunday was relatively low, and the rest I think were 9,000 to 13,000 coming through. Have we figured out, if we did decide to go the route of adding another deputy, when that would be the best time? Obviously, it seems Friday and Saturday would make sense. My colleagues can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe most of the fatality accidents occurred on a Friday night or a Saturday night. A couple of them were racing. So my question is what would that look like if we did a trial for a 30-day window, having a deputy out Friday and Saturday during the peak times at which we believe that we can make an impact to let people know that we are monitoring Railroad Canyon.
Sure, yeah. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, that's a great point. And I'd like to ask Lieutenant Rails to come up.
And
chime
Lieutenant
in
Rails,
on a
I don't
second.
even know if
Yeah.
you guys can handle that, because I know, you need deputies too, and there's issues with that, and.
Let me just say, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, in the staff report, we do, just as an example, just as a round number, we said, okay, let's say hypothetically the council wants to allocate $10,000 to this as a trial. At the rate that was quoted to us by the Sheriff's Department, that would give us about 104 hours of patrol time. We have the traffic counts now because of the flock cameras.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see when we do the safety plan and we do that study, when the accidents really occur, because it may not be when traffic is the heaviest. When there's a lot of traffic, it's hard to go fast, right? And maybe that's something that Lieutenant Rails can help us with. Maybe they can pull and see, is there a pattern? Are there times of day or days of the week where these bad accidents tend to be occurring? And maybe that's where we could focus additional patrol.
I'll have my crime analysts next week do a workup for the last 2 years, map out all the traffic accidents, as far as non-injury, injury, fatals, or major injury. And then we can see what time of day would be best. I could probably have that done by next week.
Okay.
Shouldn't be that hard.
Lieutenant Rouse, isn't there for every ticket that's written, isn't there a cost recovery to the municipality that writes that ticket?
There is. I'm not sure what comes back to the city. There are fees.
There are fees.
There are fees that they have to pay. That does come
Do we
back
have
the
to
city.
do anything if we do active enforcement for traffic in our municipal code or through the court system to access those fees based on the tickets? Or do you access for
It
them?
should be automatic with the courts. When we file it as Canyon Lake, that automatically comes back to the city. The fees do.
Okay, because I'm looking at, my brain runs offset. So this may offset some of the cost for the motor officer. I'm sure it's going to be motor that would do your traffic, because most of the time it is. But a motor officer is different though, right? We've got to pay for the motor too. So is that number up there just for the deputy in a car, or is it just a body?
That's for the deputy in a vehicle.
In a vehicle. So a motor is totally different.
Motor's different because the city of Elsinore pays for motors, about $32,000 each motor, and the city of Wildomar pays for motors. So the cities own those motors, so I can't have them work in the city of Canyon Lake with one of their motor officers. So it would have to be in a
Patrol
unit.
car.
Okay, I know we've gone down the motor route.
Yeah.
As far as what it would cost us to have something that was active. So, well, the car's better than none. I mean, I think that I'm pro enforcement and I'm pro presence, because I think that has a bigger impact on the traffic and the mindset and the philosophy. Hey, if they start coming in and they're ticketing us now, the word gets out. So the timing, I don't know. I mean, obviously we need some data on that. We need to figure it out. But I firmly believe the only way that we're going to get a handle on where we are right now, maybe the traffic study will help with some things that we can do. But I think enforcement has got to be in that mix. In the mix.
Councilman Green, I want to make a suggestion. After what Lieutenant had indicated, he can have a good portion of the data that we want and need in a couple weeks, just based upon traffic studies and accidents and collisions. I would maybe make a suggestion that we wait to receive that information, and based upon that, move forward with the idea of adding a deputy. Do a test scenario to run that deputy for a 30-day window. And if we think we're solving the problem or making a difference, then we revisit, the decision to take on resolution, 2021-65 and go at it that route.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, let me just, if I could, I think the one challenge to that approach would be that if we want to have the plan done in time to apply for the grant, we got to boogie. We're already a little behind the ball. So, I mean, we have to basically be done, completely wrapped up by April. And with the holidays between now and then, that could be a real challenge. So I think the staff recommendation is if you're interested in doing the safety plan, that we got to probably pull the trigger quickly.
And the safety plan is gas tax.
Yes.
And there's no concern at all, Mr. City Attorney, that doing the safety study will impact the ability for our residents to cross Railroad Canyon Road?
I'm not. I mean, I think we've made it pretty clear what our expectations are with our unique situation, being able to go from the POA property to our shopping center. And so I think that's going to be analyzed and taken into account. And I'm actually kind of excited to see maybe they have some creative ideas that we haven't looked at yet for how to make that crossing safer and compliant with state law.
And we can, if it's a recommendation to raise the speed limit, we do not have to agree to it, correct?
You do not. We will also talk about enforcement of the speed limit. I think that would be an appropriate thing to provide you in a attorney-client memorandum.
Understood. Okay, yes, go for it.
The 95 per hour, that would be someone dedicated to be on Railroad Canyon, patrolling that.
For those,
Correct?
yeah, for those
For-
hours.
for
that we
whatever
went,
hours.
Yes, they'd be right there in
Okay.
Railroad Canyon. Writing tickets, traffic stops.
Would it be a shift assignment or a special assignment?
It would be extra duty,
Okay, overtime.
overtime extra duty for most likely a traffic.
95.59 at OT?
Yes.
Okay,
That's why it's cheaper than adding a deputy.
I know. I like overtime. It's got its.
It does have its perks.
perks for the
And I would make sure those that signed up were traffic deputies that do traffic, that are out there writing tickets all the time.
Do you have enough staff?
Yes, we could do it.
Then I'll make the motion that we approve resolution.
Wait, I'm not done.
I can make the motion. I can still make the motion and then the comment can be made. But because I wanted to address with the city manager with my motion, that, we make the motion to adopt a resolution number 2021-65. And with that, we allow our lieutenant to work with our city manager at obtaining the data on that traffic study to implement a plan for us to add another deputy for those special hours.
So that's not the motion for this resolution, though. The resolution is to approve the funding for the.
But you got a secondary.
You had a secondary.
Yeah,
piece
yeah,
to it.
Madam Mayor.
Right, no, and that's why, that
my-
was my original question.
My understanding of Mayor Pro Tem's motion is approval of resolution number 2021-65, and in addition to approval, that the city manager work with the sheriff's department on getting that data and evaluating additional patrol. Is that correct? Do I have that?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Was your motion not to make it a 30-day?
No,
So it's just whatever?
Just direction.
it's just direction.
Yeah. I would ask for one point of clarification, though. Do you want the data brought back to the council before we start spending funds on additional traffic enforcement?
I think, Mr. City Manager, you've always done it this way. You've brought it to Budget and Finance. I think that's the correct direction. Obviously, if it exceeds a certain amount and you feel the discretion needed to come to the full council, but based upon my motion, if the council agrees with it, then I think you're going to get your answer.
Okay, so again, just point of clarification. So just because it's the example given in the staff report, let me just say, under this motion, would I have authority to move forward if it's $10,000 or under?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Understood. Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt resolution number 2021-65 with the additional direction given to staff.
Okay. Thank you for coming and for your presentation, both of you. Okay, item number 9.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. This item was at the request of Mayor Pro Tem Smith, but it originated from a complaint that our code enforcement received from a business in our town center. about another business in the town center who had a large holiday-related inflatable. And our code enforcement checked, and sure enough, that is not allowed in our municipal code currently. So the business that had the inflatable was counseled on it and pushed back and said, no, I'm going to keep it up. A warning was issued. The business said, too bad, I'm leaving it up. Citations were issued. It was left up. And so we wanted to bring this item to the council for discussion. In our looking at this topic, though, one thing was brought to our attention, actually, that actually might be good to look at whether we want to make a change in the code. Currently, the code does not make a distinction between inflatables in the commercial zone versus inflatables in the residential zone. So technically, as the code is written today, houses that have holiday inflatables are not in compliance with this code. So it might be a good idea to go back and make a change in the code to draw that distinction so that the prohibition only applies in the commercial zone. But this is before you today for discussion and for direction. If the council's desires to make a change here, staff would go back and draft those changes in the code and bring it back to you at a future meeting for adoption.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
If I may. I've looked into this issue in other jurisdictions after speaking with the city manager. And if it was the council's desire, you can absolutely have distinctions between residential zones and commercial zones. If you wanted to allow temporary inflatables for no more than 30 days per calendar year, that is something that I think, could be readily brought back and would be easy to defend the constitutionality of.
Are you talking about in the commercial area?
I'm talking about in the residential area. The issue that the city manager and staff noted was that inflatables are prohibited citywide all the time. And I believe there's just been this kind of recent trend in holiday decorating. So, we saw it in the commercial center, and I'm sure you see it out in the residential area, inflatable Santa Clauses, snow globes, things like that. And so the idea would be if you wanted to have them continue to be prohibited in commercial zones of the city, but be permitted on a temporary basis in the residential zones, no more than 30 days, no more than 60 days per calendar year, that's something that would be you'd be perfectly capable of doing in a pretty quick way. And we can even bring it on an urgency basis so that it's in effect through December, if you wanted to.
Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. This was brought forth through a couple of residents in Canyon Lake, and you got to give credit where credit's deserved. Mr. City Manager, while you were away, your code enforcement was dealing with this problem. They did a phenomenal job. They really did with some of the aggressors that were having the problem in the town center. And I think we found something that we can fix pretty easily. The idea that I had that I wanted to run by my colleagues is obviously separating the ordinance into residential and commercial, in my opinion, is a must. But also not penalizing the commercial side of it just because they decide to display a small blow-up or a Santa or whatnot pertaining to the holiday at which that they're advertising. And so I think that, maybe we look at rewriting this particular, to indicate both residential and commercial, but also allow both parties, residential and commercial, to allow for inflatables not to exceed a certain height limit for a duration of time. And maybe we look at something, if you're a commercial side of it, you have to pull a special permit. If you're residential, you don't. It's grandfathered in. You get a 30-day window because I think it becomes a little bit difficult to try to manage that, or more importantly, the code enforcement to enforce it. And then at least the business side of it, we're working with our business owners and working with them to allow to advertise for holidays and don't penalize them for doing that.
So, Councilmember, just so I understand the track of it, because we're already writing the ordinance in our head, the idea would be to allow for the temporary display of inflatables, both residential and commercial. Do you want size limits on both?
Yeah, you know, the standard, doing some research with code enforcement for bigger cities is 25, so I think for Little Canyon Lake, we can reduce that, maybe down to, I don't know what this council would think, but, I mean, 10, 50, I'm not sure
Just
what
like
that's.
height,
you know, I'm not sure what that would look like, but I know that other cities do 25, but that's because they have big commercial areas and they can get away with that. So maybe we look at something that makes sense for Canyon Lake, since we only do have the town center and Eastport, and obviously over where JDI is at, so we have a limited spacing on what that size could be. So my suggestion would be somewhere between 10 and 15 feet for commercial, and they would still have to pull a permit and identify the size of that particular inflatable with, you know, so that we're aware of that as well, and we're working with them. We issue that permit, and I don't think it should be a cost to them to do that. That would be my suggestion to this council. I think it's most of what we'll see is businesses advertising the holidays, and I think those inflatables will be more around the Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas time, as opposed to anywhere else.
Well, Mr. Bertram, if I may, so just a couple things come to mind. So just so we're clear, in the commercial areas, the inflatables we're talking about, you know, you're talking about holiday-related inflatables. So it might not be a bad idea in my mind to include language in the ordinance that prohibits, you know, language on the inflatable that makes it a big advertisement for the business.
Correct.
Right, so you don't want the business's name really big, or sale, or something like that. If it's truly just a holiday decoration, is that what we're?
Yeah, you know, because the original ordinance already indicates that, and they already state that, you know, the inflatable's not there in place to advertise the business. And I think the issue that the community's having, at least from the business side of it, is just the holiday side of it. It's the holiday blow-ups. So I think, you know, we still keep the ordinance in regards to not allowing, because then you're dealing with it year-round. That's the issue, right? Then you're dealing with big blow-ups year-round, and they can become a problem. It's kind of expected around the holidays. So I think, you know, at least from what I'm hearing from our business community at the town center, is that this would be a positive, you know, for them to allow advertisement, you know, of that holiday as opposed to just their business. So I think we keep the language in there of the status quo in regards to not allowing inflatables to advertise the business, but obviously let them and give them permission during the holidays to be festive and to be part of it.
That makes sense. Thank you. And then the second question I had, or point, I would recommend that if you want to make this something that a permit is required for, that it not be, that the fee not be waived. The reason is we have an entire fee schedule that's based on staff time to process permits. And so we don't really have permits that don't impose that fee, because it does take staff time to do those permits. So we could either, I would recommend that we either have it be a permit that has to be pulled with the fee, or to not even have to have a permit pulled. It's just, you know, whatever the restriction is in the code.
Can we make it where when you apply for your business license every year, you indicate if you're going to participate in the holiday inflatable program, and then you say, I'm going to, you know, put down, so it's all done, it's documented right then and there?
So I think we can explore a permitting scheme that maybe makes sense. I generally try to keep the business license as a revenue generating measure as opposed to a regulatory measure. And I think that, you know, I think when we bring it forward, I think city manager can bring forward a proposed permit and what the expected cost of that would be. My expectation, here's my address, here's a picture of the inflatable, here's its maximum height, is it approved? I can't imagine it's going to take hours and hours to approve these kind of things, but you know, there's not just concerns about the height. There's going to be concerns about its location. Is it blocking an emergency exit? Is it blocking an ADA path of travel? So they're going to have questions like that. They're going to have to describe where it's going to be.
So it's going to have to have an onset.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to have a little bit of due diligence here.
Well, yeah,
on
because
where
my
it's gonna go.
concern is say we have a nasty wind through the town center and one of these inflatables takes loose and does some damage to
Blows
some
into
cars.
Railroad Canyon.
At least, exactly,
causes an accident.
and now we have a reason to do a traffic study again.
Yeah.
And because of these inflatables that we've allowed. But at least we have documentation showing that that particular 15-foot pumpkin belongs to, whoever, right?
Yeah, so I think we can go through that and, we'll look at it. I mean, I'm generally hesitant about having content restrictions on signs.
Right.
What you're allowed to write, what you're not. But I do think that, we can have language in here that, no writing permitted on it. It's not allowed to be an advertisement. And I think that we could probably work that out too.
Madam Mayor, my comments, to me, it was interesting that a business complained about the inflatable. So in other words, what is good for one business and it may not be good for the neighbors, the other businesses in the neighborhood. So I feel like we have some business people that are in the center on the council, which is really, really great. But I think we should reach out to the business community and the community and kind of say, what do you think would work for you? I mean, maybe they could get, we limit it to 25 permits a year, or maybe they can do a grand opening balloon or something. Maybe we do have some allowances. We do need to get people into the center. I mean, that's one of our main goals. And the festive atmosphere is great, but when you get them lined all the way up and down the sidewalk, then it kind of looks junky. And again, what is good for one business may not be good for the other three around it. So I would encourage that we reach out to the business community and we have them have input on what they think would work. And that's my concern, is that we don't reach out and get some consensus out there. And I'll be honest about this one. I don't see anybody necessarily dying and of getting attacked by a blow up. I'm not sure we need to rush this through as kind of an emergency thing. I think it should be well thought out in the picture of what's good for businesses. And I know we're coming to the holiday period. The council could talk about what we are going to do this year, but as a whole, I wouldn't want to pull the trigger and not get some business input.
Understood. I would just ask that if the direction ends up being that we want to reach out to the business community and get public input, I'm sensing a more time-intensive process than we had originally thought, so I'd ask that we put this off until next year. We have zero bandwidth left right now and hit the staff through the.
Is there something we need to change now, though, to allow it to have, or the community to have blow-ups residentially?
Well, I'll let the city attorney address that, but.
No,
I don't think so.
I mean, I would prefer that this have, that understanding, that exception within it. We do have prosecutorial discretion, who we're going to go out and write tickets for, who we're not. I think it's perfectly reasonable for the city to focus on sign regulation enforcement in the commercial center of the city, where we have a lot more traffic, we have a lot more health and safety concerns. We're not necessarily as worried about an inflatable on a lawn, blocking ADA access or blocking an emergency exit as we are when it gets put up outside of a business in the business center. So I think we have a rational basis for focusing there now. I don't think it's something we should just forget about forever. I also think that, if we're talking about taking more time, I highly endorse that. I think our whole sign code can we can take a good look at that. We already dabbled a bit with the window signs. There are a lot of other portions of the sign code that need to be addressed. So perhaps that's simply something that, maybe could be pushed off until there is sufficient bandwidth to look at the program as a whole and bring it up to date.
What about in the interim? Ban between now and January 1?
Well, yeah, if I understood the city attorney correctly, I believe what he's saying is, until such time as a change is made in the code, yeah, the prohibition stands. However, we have the discretion of how to kind of enforce that, and so we would not enforce, we would likely not enforce the prohibition in the residential zones, but we would continue enforcing in the commercial zones. Did I get that correct?
Unless there was a clear health and safety issue.
Correct.
I can imagine someone creating a problem with an inflatable. I know someone's that creative. But I think that, yes, that's the gist. We'll focus on the commercial area now. That's where we have the highest traffic and the biggest concerns. And then we will get to making that exception for the residential area next year.
Very often, code enforcement actions are complaint-driven. This code's been on our books for many years, and inflatables have been around for several years now. So it came to light now because we had a complaint in the town center from a business that caused us to take a look at it. So I'm not sure that anything would need to change in how we're enforcing this, in the short term until such time that we can address the changes that need to be made in the code.
Are there any public comment cards?
No comments.
So does anyone want to make a motion regarding direction to staff?
I still don't know what to do, just because, it's going to be a problem in the next couple months. And Councilmember Welty, he's right, but the complaints that I received in the last few weeks was businesses that would want to do it as well. It wasn't all just negative. It wasn't just, oh, they can't be doing that. It was, this would be a great idea to have an elf or a Santa or Merry Christmas or, a tree or whatever it might be. But we definitely have to address the residential, because if you went through Halloween this last weekend, everyone had a blow up. Mr. City Attorney.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem, I see the kind of struggle you're having with here. I think if the council's direction was bring us back an exception for residential and a simple change to this that has a height restriction, a time restriction, and maybe a permit, we can get that done by December. But if it's go out and have 5 community meetings,
No,
meet with all the
absolutely not.
businesses,
And
get buy-in from everybody, like, we're not gonna be able to get that done.
And I want my colleagues to know this is not why I brought this forward. I brought this forward because business owners came to me and said, hey, actually, that pumpkin would be a great idea if I did it for a Christmas tree or whatnot. It's more of a festive thing, and they already know the ordinance exists because they don't want it to display for their business. It's just for the holidays. So if it's okay with my colleagues, I would like to make that motion that we address exactly what the city attorney said. We go ahead and identify between the commercial and the residential, and in looking at the commercial, we allow for blow-ups not to exceed 15 feet that obtain only to the holidays. And if it's an issue, I call it a test run, right? If it's an issue in these next couple months, we come back, just like Councilman Welty had identified, we come back to not only this ordinance, but also the business community, and we say, hey, look, we got to either, now it's 5 feet because you guys just went nuts, right? Or who knows, right? Could be a great thing. It could be, but I think the holidays are right here. It's already November. We're approaching Thanksgiving. We're approaching Christmas. We've got some amazing things happening, in the town center. So that would be my suggestion, and if that motion makes sense.
I will, he's made the motion, I'll second the motion based on the verbiage the attorney, our city attorney proposed, and I'm also in concurrence that after the holidays, and if there are issues that arise, we bring it back, because we do need to relook probably our sign ordinance and rework the whole thing, but to get everything handled now without undue staff time and other issues that could come about, if that can be brought at this next meeting, we should be good.
I think this would take us through the holidays, and then after the holidays, nobody wants to deal with the sign issue. The business community does not want to deal with the sign issue between now and January 1st. So we could give some flexibility, do a temporary thing, and then we could revisit it next year. I think that would be great.
For the record, too, I'd like to apologize to our city planner, Jim Morrissey. I think I stepped on his presentation here tonight, so sorry, Jim, but he is here if there are questions for our city planner.
15 feet, Jim, or 25?
There you go.
It's all right. We got it. Okay. All right. Do we vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Smith, can I just have you restate your motion, please? I'm not sure that I quite got that. I'm sure when I go back and re-listen to the audio, but if I could just...
It's going to be tough.
Okay, so my motion is that we separate the difference between commercial and residential in regards to this inflatable ordinance. We allow for residential and commercial to have inflatables as long as they're holiday or seasonal related. And I think we put a 30-day window on it before the holiday. It has to be taken down, I don't know, campaign signs are 7 days, so let's do that after the holiday. and then, and we move forward with that, and then we readdress it next year.
Okay. And for a point of clarification, the height limit to apply only in the commercial zone?
Well, that's a good question.
I'm
Because
not-
I saw some pretty rad, I mean, you guys saw it on vacation, we saw some community members, they put up some amazing,
So does the city have an interest in how big someone's inflatable is?
I don't think so.
In front of their house?
I
Yeah.
don't, I can't, I don't think we can do that, so I think
So
it's
just
just.
in the commercial?
Just in the commercial.
Okay.
Unless there's
Yeah.
some obvious safety issue, no, I think we just let it go.
Okay. Thank you.
I would say that if somebody, like I said, people are very creative. Somebody creates an inflatable that's a public nuisance, we have adequate codes to go after that. We don't have to have a specific issue with them.
Right.
But I'm hearing height of 15, time restriction, you want it to be temporary, and then you want us to explore the possibility of having a permit, over the count of the permit.
Right.
Okay, great.
Does that work?
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. And Councilmember Green, based on the restated motion, you still second that? Okay, all right. So I got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Smith and a second by Councilmember Green. So we'll do a roll call. Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, on to 10.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask Fire Chief Jeff Latendresse to come up and give the presentation on this item.
Fancy meeting.
Good evening again, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, city staff. Fire Chief Jeff Latendresse here to make a presentation tonight on our mutual aid agreements that we've been working on for some months now. As I reported at previous council meetings, I have been going out to the different agencies that have fire departments and introducing what we are trying to do here at Canyon Lake, explaining the process, what we're trying to do, and trying to garner their support for what we are doing. The fire back in May at the storage facility brought to life the need that no agency can live without mutual aid. Riverside County Fire had to bring in resources from Corona, Riverside City, and Murrieta to the incident, and engine company from Hemet covered the city or the community of Winchester, while county units were here in our city. It's important to understand the difference between automatic aid and mutual aid. Automatic aid historically, traditionally, is an agreement with your neighboring department, your neighboring fire agency, where you have a contiguous border with them. And what you're saying is, if there's a fire in your jurisdiction, we're going to treat it like a fire in our jurisdiction. We're going to share our resources, whatever you identify them to be, and we're going to send the closest resources, regardless of jurisdiction, recommended in the computer-aided dispatch system as quickly as possible. So for a lot of the fire agencies here in western Riverside County, we can't enter into an automatic aid agreement with them because we are surrounded by cities and communities that are protected by Riverside County. We are in negotiations, we are in discussions. I met today with Division Chief Olson from Riverside County Fire on our automatic aid agreement, and it is anticipated that we will be bringing that at our next meeting with the details to follow. But in between that, as we saw back in May, we're going to need additional agreements in place. So we've been working on those mutual aid agreements. So I have reached out to the city of Corona, to the fire chief, to the city of Riverside, to the city of Calimesa, to the city of Murrieta, to the Idlewild Fire Protection District, to March Air Reserve Base, and started having discussions on agreements with them. Every one of those agencies I've identified have given us a thumbs up. Tonight I bring forward 3 of the agencies that have gotten the commitment from their legal staff of reviewing the automatic aid agreements and the authorization to move forward. Those communities are Calimesa, Murrieta, and March Air Reserve Base. Corona, Riverside City, and Idlewild, I expect to bring forward at the next meeting as they continue to go through the administrative review process internally, but we have the support of their fire chiefs as we move forward. I also expect to continue meeting with other agencies here in the western side of the county including the city of Hemet, who now has a new fire chief. And we have tried to communicate. He's been too busy so far to establish a meeting and to reach out to the reservation fire departments at Soboba and Pachenka and see if we can get mutual aid agreements with them. So with that, that concludes my presentation. I recommend that the City Council adopt Resolution 2021-66, Resolution 2021-67, and Resolution 2021-68, authorizing city manager to sign the agreements with the City of Cali Mesa, the City of Murrieta, and with March Air Reserve Base. And I'm available for any questions if you have them.
Questions? Any?
No questions.
Oh, really? No questions? Okay. Hearing no questions, is there any public comment on this?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we received an email public comment earlier today from Jason Simpson. I will not be reading the email I will not be reading it aloud, but it will be included as part of the record, and the council did receive a copy of that email.
Okay. Based on that, a motion and a second to adopt all three resolutions, 66, 67, and 68.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Castillo?
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt resolutions number 2021-66, 67, and 68.
Okay. Item number 11 was pulled. So we are moving on to item number 12. Hi.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, city staff, Jeff Latendrous, your fire chief. I'd like to provide my monthly update on the progress that we have made in the last month since we last met in regards to getting the fire department ready to start operations for January 1st. So city staff and the Public Safety Ad Hoc Committee did meet with a group of concerned firefighters on the process that we were moving forward with. I will say it was a good meeting. We had good discussion and dialogue with the members that were present. We listened to their concerns, and as best we can, we're going to address their concerns. I'm not sure we're going to be able to address all of them, but we, again, are open to the dialogue, and we will continue to meet as needed with them as we continue to move forward. I also was able to attend the city's car club last month. Great group of people, had a good time. They bought pizza, so I had a good time there. And again, I gave an overview of what the department is doing, where we are at, what our intentions are, and how we're going to move forward. Tomorrow night, I'll be attending the Disaster Preparedness Committee and doing pretty much the same thing of trying to get our message out there, being transparent, being open, and explaining how we're moving forward. It's important for us to meet with the Disaster Preparedness Committee because as the fire department and the fire chief, we will be a key player in disaster preparedness, emergency preparedness for the city. And so we're going to keep moving forward and having those discussions with them. I've been working with the city's new deputy building inspector, and graciously he has volunteered to take on a project that I mentioned last month that I hadn't started on yet, and that's the remodel of the fire station. So he has been meeting with the contractor that the city has retained, working on plans and everything, and we hope to have that contractor available to start work in remodeling certain aspects of the fire station by January 3rd. Sorry about that. As all of you heard from my previous presentation, I've been out meeting with the different fire chiefs, working with them on the mutual aid agreement, so I'm still continuing to build those relations. And I actually got invited to the Riverside County Fire Chiefs Association's group, so I've started attending those meetings as well. I also mentioned earlier I had a very good meeting today with Division Chief Olson of Riverside County Fire. We had very serious heart discussions on the automatic aid agreement as we move forward, and that should be coming forward to you next month. The city also submitted an almost 300-page document to REMSA, the Riverside County Emergency Medical Services Agency, for our application to be paramedic providers here in the county. I can tell you that application and putting it together and doing all the research and preparation took an extreme amount of my time the last month to prepare it. But they now have it, they are reviewing it, they've already been in contact on some of the items that we have submitted, And it's also our intent that we'll be bringing that forward at our next council meeting so that we will be authorized and have an agreement in place with REMSA to provide paramedic service. Part of that we talked about last month is I haven't really worked on the training schedule. We've got 10 firefighters coming in, and we've got a month to train them, and I haven't started working on it yet. I can tell you now we have 5 weeks of training outlined and identified with instructors lined up to come in and start doing those training hours. We also worked with and identified a facility, a medical facility in Murrieta, Concentra, to do all of our medical examinations and also be our facilitator for any workers' comp claims. So as of today, we have 9 employees in our medical checks. They have all passed their background, and they're going through their medical exams, which is the last component before we can give them full job offers, and we expect to have that completed within the next week. We have 15 reserve firefighters that have also completed all of their backgrounds, and they are in the medical exam process, and those should finish up within the next 2 weeks, and will be able to start their training as well. The way the reserves are going to work is we're not going to be able to bring them into our initial academy. So after January 1, we're going to have weekend training classes with the reserves and get them up to speed on the equipment, on the processes that we're going to have. We still have 1 open position, and we continue to conduct interviews for the battalion chief position. And the city manager and I will be meeting with a very strong candidate who has 30-plus years of experience as a chief officer here in Riverside County that is recently retired. And so we'll see where those negotiations go. Equipment continues to come in on a daily basis. If you look up in the old library, the room is getting fuller and fuller as the equipment continues to come in. We have ordered all of our computer software for all of our different programs. So as we start doing our incident reports, our staffing, our electronic patient care reporting, all of those computer programs are now online. The contracts are signed and agreed, and we are starting to do the inputting to build the system so that we can get them up and running. I've also met with a candidate to be our paramedic liaison nurse, and so that's a component that we needed to fill and check the box as part of our application to REMSA. And so I will be bringing a contract forward at the next council meeting. And so with that, we'll have our medical director in place, we'll have our paramedic liaison nurse in place, one of our own firefighters will be our EMS coordinator, and so those are the major players that will allow us to have the components that we need for our EMS delivery system. So again, another busy month. We also hit a couple roadblocks out there, and we're going to continue to hit roadblocks as we continue to move forward with putting all this together in a pandemic and a global crisis of trying to get supplies and deliveries everywhere. I was reading the paper the other day, and they said if you were to stack every container that's on a ship parked in the Port of Los Angeles side by side, you could go from Los Angeles to Chicago. That's how many ships and containers that are backlogged back there. So we got bad news on the fire engine. The fire engine was supposed to be here November 17th. It's now reported to be here in the first week of December. Not a major concern. It's going to cause us a little bit more work to do to get everything going, but we believe we'll have it ready for when we start January 1st. If not, the current engine 60 that's in quarters belongs to the city. And so that's going to be turned over to the city with all the equipment on it. I verified that today with Chief Olson, and it will be ready to go as a backup. If that doesn't work, if there's still some other issue, the Office of Emergency Services has 5 state fire engines here in Riverside County. We can have access through the channels to borrow one of those fire engines until our engines are available and ready for service. So we have backup plans for that. Interesting story on our Type 6. I got a report that they couldn't get the roll-up doors. The vendor ROM doors was out of material. They couldn't get any of the material in. Strangely, a Canyon Laker called me in the office about 2 weeks ago and identified himself as a fire apparatus dealer that specializes in roll-up doors. I put them up with our manufacturer, and it looks like this local Canyon Lake person is going to be able to supply the doors we need to expedite the delivery of our Type 6. Our turnouts that were supposed to be here in the middle of November so we could start our training in the last week in November are now scheduled for the second week of December. Not a big issue because the first 2 weeks of training that we had outlined are going to be classroom, so we don't need our turnouts for that first aspect of it. And then finally, as I reported last month, our command vehicles are looking to be delivered in May. Last month, you approved us to be able to screen surplus government vehicles. We've got all the agreements in place. I started looking through the website this week, looking for vehicles as one option, but the city also has an SUV that has Code 3 capability that we can put into work in the meantime. So, a lot accomplished, a lot still to do. Again, city staff, all the employees of the city attorney going through all these mutual aid agreements and making sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed have been exceptional assistance to me as we continue to move this process more forward. So I'm available for any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Questions?
Awesome job.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any public comment?
No public comments.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Moving on to city manager comments.
Yes, Madam Mayor, just a couple of quick things. You may have noticed in relation to the building the city purchased that houses the church and a number of other tenants, we are finally underway on the roof project. Fantastic. Yeah, we should be done at some point next week. Not a single change order so far. That's coming along very well. At the next council meeting, you should see a contract for approval for the ADA improvement work, including the sidewalks and the doorways, those sorts of things, which will again be paid for through CDBG funds. So finally, after more than a year and a half of struggling with getting those contracts in place and the work done, we are well underway. That's good. Wanted to mention some really good news on the budget front. Our finance director, Terry Shea, has completed putting together the budget actuals from last fiscal year, and we ended up looking really good last fiscal year. Total general fund revenues were $7,064,948.79, which was $294,031 higher than anticipated. Total general fund expenditures were $6,168,024, which was $497,466 lower than what we budgeted. So we stayed within budget. We spent 92.54% of the approved general fund budget. In total, general fund revenues exceeded expenditures by $896,924. We saw a very nice increase in our general fund balance last fiscal year. We were right around the $4 million mark when we started the fiscal year. Like we were at $4,061,424. As of June 30th, that balance was almost $5 million. It was $4,958,348. So, I mean, really a remarkable financial turnaround in the last couple of years. Now we've been spending quite a bit of that money starting in July with the startup of the fire department, but still having that surplus last year really came at a good time for us, considering the costs incurred with the startup of the fire department. So. Our finances are quite healthy. I'm happy to report that. Wanted to just highlight upcoming events. The end of the year is a busy time for the city as we have most of our events stacked up here towards the end. Veterans Day is coming up on Thursday, November 11th. That's next week. Golf cart parade will start at 10 o'clock in the morning. Lineup begins at 9, and lining up at Eastport Park. And then at 1 o'clock, the Warbirds will be doing a flyover they'll be flying right over the lake, as we did last year. On Saturday, December 4th, we have our Winter Wonderland event. It is going to be, so we had this event for the first time year before last. Last year, unfortunately, we could not have it because of COVID. This year, it is going to be bigger and better than the first time we had it. We're going to have a bigger snow play area, a second snow slide. We've just really added to the event. A tree that's appropriately sized for a commercial center. So it's going to be a great event. That's from 3 to 8 p.m. on Saturday, December 4th in the town center. And then on Thursday, December 9th, we'll have our State of the City event. That'll be at the Lodge, at the Holiday Bay Room, 5 o'clock. Details are still being worked out on that, so we're not sure yet what that program's going to look like or how long it'll go, but probably a couple hours, Thursday, December 9th. And I just wanted to highlight that our next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be Monday, December 6th. I highlighted Monday because it's usually we're on Wednesdays, so just keep in mind it'll be Monday, December 6th. It's a big meeting. We do our city council reorganization that night. That's when we council chooses who will serve as mayor and mayor pro tem for the upcoming year. We will be looking at doing the committee assignments at that meeting. So Madam Mayor will talk to you about, I guess we'll talk to you and the mayor pro tem about what that process should look like. And it'll probably include the members of the council emailing the mayor and mayor pro tem on committees you're interested in, because typically the mayor puts together a list of proposed committee assignments that the council approves at that meeting. And then another big thing that'll happen at that meeting will be the swearing in of our fire department personnel. So we will have everyone here, we'll have 9 or 10 people here, hopefully that night to be sworn in. So that'll be exciting. Now, we may need to call a special meeting between now and the December 6th meeting if we get the auto aid agreement in place from the county. We want to get that approved here as quickly as possible, because after the council approves it, it has to go to the county board of supervisors for their approval. And as we get into the holidays, we're not sure what their schedule is going to be like, so we don't want to wait until the last minute on that. And that is all I have this evening. Yes, I guess the city clerk has one thing.
Yes, as we're talking about upcoming events, staff would like to point out that on Thursday, November 18th, we will be hosting our annual turkey drive along with Helping Hands. It's going to be from 2 to 4 p.m. and it's going to be located at City Hall just upstairs here in the main building. Thursday, November 18th. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, council member comments. Councilmember Dane?
I'll be very brief. I have been a part of, in October, the Lake Elsinore Chamber of Commerce Student of the Month event, and really great winners of the Student of the Month, and just wanted to highlight 2 of our Canyon Lake students, Jesse Roop and Connor Martia from Temescal Canyon High School. So congratulations on Student of the Month.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Green?
Well, it's been a sort of a busy month. I attended the meeting for the mayor for the Southwest Communities Finance Authority, which is the Friends of the Valley. Again,
Animal Friends,
Animal Friends of the Valley. And it was quite an interesting meeting because they only meet twice a year. But some highlights is they have received Nonprofit of the Year recognition from the state. They have a food bank established for those who are really who can't afford dog food, so they're providing out dog food. One of the things that will be coming, not this year, but in the following year, is they will be adjusting the city contributions because of things that are happening at the shelter. One, right now, they do not have a system that tracks when an animal enters the shelter and then is adopted. So they don't know the cost of what that animal, the longer the animal is in the shelter, the more money it costs. So they don't have an actual hard account that this dog or cat, whatever, they're adopting out total costs, because they don't have a software program. So they're updating their software, they're updating their computer system, and that's all being done out of the reserve funds that they have in place now. So they're not going to raise their fee this year. They did do a nationwide search for their director, and they ended up promoting within Middleton, is the new, they call him chief. So she is now the new director and is very capable and has been with the organization quite a while. So that was a good thing. They're also talking about the use of credit cards and is there a fee associated. They've got a consulting firm coming in to do an outreach education program. So here's an interesting statistic. 38.3% of all shelter dogs and cats are turned over to the shelter. People got them, didn't like them, brought them back. So that is that. Had a meeting on the 24th with Mayor Pro Tem with some concerned citizens about our movement of our fire department. It was a very progressive meeting, very good meeting. Some interesting things came out, and we're doing the best we can to move forward, but we're going live January 1. RCA met on the November 1st. Whew, got a lot this month. Basically, squeeze it down, Lake Elsinore just got 239.87 acres purchased for $1,400,000 in their city, part of the RCA. Area 3, it's actually where the poppies are, okay? And it's a property that had been up and the owner is willing to sell. So it's an RCA, but it's actually with, all of it is within the city of Lake Elsinore. Stakeholders Committee, which I talked about last meeting, all the applications are in, they're closed. So the folks that I had interested cannot play this year. And that purpose of that committee is to resolve issues that might be from the builders or from RCA on the fee structure. So this is a committee made of multiple stakeholders, whether they're in the building industry, they're in the environmental side, or they're actually a concerned citizen. These folks have got quite a bit of power, so they'll have that, and they're hoping to have that up and running by January. And last, I will be attending the Emergency Preparedness Committee tomorrow night, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Anna, for reminding us about the Turkey Drive event. I love that event. It's one of my favorite, it's to participate with. So if anyone's listening out there and they need a turkey picked up, you can text, call, or email me, and I'll swing by your house and grab it and turn it in for you. I try to do that every year. So a couple things in regards to SCAG, RCTC, I can kind of loop these two together. The big conversation is rail right now, trying to put a rail program that goes all the way to the desert. So that's the big push right now, and SCAG and RCTC are working side by side to make that a possibility. It's a really good move for the residents of the desert. It gives them the opportunity to go straight to LA. There's actually a design that goes to the ocean too, so there's different platforms there that they're trying to put together. RTA, good and sad news. Larry Rubio is officially retiring December 29th. And we brought on a new leader. Her name's Kristen Warinsky, and actually our city manager knows her. Amazing woman. She's well established in Riverside County, used to work for Beaumont Transit, and I think she will do a fantastic job. So really, really excited about that opportunity. And had the opportunity, as Councilman Green mentioned, to have a really good conversation with individuals in our community that are part of the fire service, and we're excited. We're excited because some good input come from that meeting, but more importantly, we're listening to the community and seeing their needs and wants, and they're asking, for us to participate and allow them to help. So it was very productive, just like Councilman Green said. And lastly, I usually give a real estate update. It was not prepared in time for this council meeting, but I'll make sure to do that in December. And Canyon Lake continues to do extremely well with our real estate as far as median sales price and inventory and all that other good stuff. So thank you so much for the time.
Councilmember Welty?
Thank you. What a great day. We're moving into the fire station, and we have a budget working. We're going to take a great look at Railroad Canyon and fix one of our significant problems. So I'm really excited we're moving ahead on that. The roundtable, it meets monthly. It consists basically of the sheriff, the fire department, the Elsinore Municipal Water District, the POA, and the city. The communication at the roundtable is incredible. And when it first started many years ago, it went through kind of a couple of rough corners. But I would say everyone that sits at that table enjoys their time there. They feel safe, they feel comfortable, and then we have a great discussions about where we go as a community in total. So that's very exciting. As far as Ledgewood goes, they're going out for alum treatment RF bids, and so they're looking to continue the alum treatment for another 3 years at this time, and maybe continue on further after that. We also hope to look at other ways to, in order to mitigate the pollution that goes in the water. So that's where we're headed. We're also, there may be some grant funds available for water quality coming our way, and we're going to keep our heads up and try to get some of that for Canyon Lake. So that ends my report. Thank you.
Okay, and my update is just to thank Canyon Lake for a great and festive Halloween. As far as I know, there were no safety issues, and I think everyone behaved well, which I'm grateful for. I just want to highlight a couple of the additional details on Veterans Day based on the really good committee meetings we've had. The lineup will take place, as the city manager stated, at 9 o'clock on Thursday. At that point, there will be check-in. Members of the committee will have you sign waivers to participate. There will be individuals from the First Responders, or Veterans and First Responders Club. Those people will be lining up the individual military branches. So if you are participating as a branch member veteran, they will show you which area to line up in. We will have the World War II veterans in front, and then branches will go in order of age thereafter. From there, anyone who is a non-veteran will be able to participate in the parade as well. We hope that you decorate your golf carts. The parade will go from the Eastport to the Galt Field, will then go to Holiday Harbor. It will end at the Veterans Memorial Park. We will have a wreath there in honor of the day. From there, you'll have plenty of time to visit the Canyon Lake businesses. Hopefully, we'll have a list of those businesses who are willing to provide veterans with discounts on food that day, and grab your lunch, and then head out to various parts of the community where you will be able to see the extended flyover, which will go over the lake. So if you go to Holiday Harbor, or if you go to Sunset Beach, or any of those areas, you will have a great vantage point of the flyover, which is an extended flyover in honor of our veterans. I've heard a lot of commentary that last year's flyover was amazing. We're hoping that this year's is just as good, if not better, and we're looking forward to doing this. We have a great committee. The flags will be placed in the yards beginning, I believe, on the 4th. So those who have called or emailed the city or signed up on the list for flags in the yards will be getting those. We also have the flags that will be going into the Memorial Park. We're hoping that all of the construction that is for the electrical conduits that is going on over there will be done. We're hoping to have the memorial area also pressure washed, so it's nice and looks good for that important day. Beyond that, thank you for everyone accommodating my trial schedule and moving the council meeting. I appreciate that. Our next regular meeting will be Monday, December 6th at 5 p.m. for closed session, 6:30 p.m. for open session. And at 8:52, we are adjourned. Thank you.